Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Jason, and you're now tuned into I Speak Geek. So guys, I'm back with another keyboard. It seems like new year, new keyboard. So this is the latest offering from KeyChron. This is the KeyChron C2. So this is actually a full-size mechanical keyboard as opposed to like something like the K4, which is a compact keyboard, but it's still missing a few buttons. Whereas like the K1 V3 is a full-size keyboard, but it's ultra thin. And of course, there are some other keyboards from KeyChron. I think like the K6, which is a 10 keyless keyboard, meaning there is no number pad. So a little backstory about KeyChron. So I actually really love this company. I've been using their keyboards, I want to say for the last 2 years or maybe 3 years. I started off with the KeyChron K2 because I was in search of a wireless mechanical keyboard for my Mac. And I stumbled onto the K2 on Kickstarter. Really enjoyed that keyboard, but I wanted something a little bit more traditional with like a full layout. Still, they were only selling like compact keyboards, with the exception of the K1, but unfortunately they didn't have the K1 in stock. So I picked up the K4, which is still a compact keyboard, which was closer to the full layout. But again, still there was a few buttons missing. And finally, they released the KeyChron C2. So this is actually a wired keyboard. So this is more traditional, like you would find with other mechanical keyboards that are wired. There is no battery in this. This one is actually the backlit variant. There isn't any RGB in this particular keyboard. And the reason for that this one is actually one of the hot swappable versions of this particular keyboard. And they didn't have the hot swappable available in the full size keyboard with the RGB, so I went with this one because I'm going to be switching out these switches with the novel key sherbet keys, just because I listened to a couple sound tests and that is more to my liking versus the switches that I have in this one. And of course, these are the blue switches. If you know me, I love that clickety clankety noise, that beautiful keyboard music. So of course, I'm going with a blue switch every time. And of course, I am a glutton for punishment, and I love pissing off my coworkers and my wife with the sound of my keyboard. Without further ado, let's open it up and see what all comes inside. So, of course, you have your standard documentation. Here's a card from KeyChron telling you to be gentle whenever you're replacing the switches, not to bend the pins. Here we have a placard with some shortcuts on there, some more documentation, a little padding. So we actually have a USB-C cable here. It looks like it's a USB-C to C cable, and it does come with a dongle for USB-A. I think that's quite a nice touch by KeyChron. I may or may not keep that cable, or I might swap it out with a better cable. So of course they provide additional keys in the package. So right now it does have the Mac keys on here. These additional keys are for Windows. So moving on, we do have a key puller, and it does look like there is a switch puller included with this particular version of the keyboard. And finally, we have the keyboard itself. So let me get all the stuff out the way. So here we have it. This is the KeyChron C2. So it's a pretty standard layout for a keyboard, that complete full size layout with some modest changes. So you have a dedicated shortcut button. You have a dedicated button for Siri. And of course, like KeyChron's other keyboards, you have a dedicated button for the lights where you can cycle through the different patterns. And if you hold the key, light key and arrow key, it will cycle through the colors. So of course, like I said, this doesn't have a battery. It is a wired keyboard. So you only have a switch to change it between Mac and Windows. And of course, this year, the color scheme is all new. It seems like whenever KeyChron does a different keyboard, they change the color scheme. So this is white and black, kind of like a panda. I think that's what I would call this. So this panda keyboard here is looking pretty clean. I don't think I'm going to change the keycaps, although I am going to switch the switches. So of course, with a blue switch keyboard, it's all about that clickety clankiness, that beautiful keyboard music. And of course, that's a so you can hear that. It's pretty lightweight. Of course, being there is no battery. It does reduce some weight in here, and I'm anxious to actually start typing on it because I feel like even though that the K4 is a good keyboard, I think me, for my particular taste, I like a full layout, and I was only able to do that with the K1 V3, but doing that keyboard was extremely thin as it's supposed to be. So the angles weren't great for me. I know I think there's a newer version out there. I could be thinking about like the K2 or the K4, where they switched the angle of it and made it a little bit higher. So whenever I was using like a wrist rest with the keyboard, it'd be a little bit too high. If I didn't use a wrist rest, it'd be a little bit too low. So I went back to using the K4, and then I got a nice wrist rest from Razer, and it actually helped me out. But then again, I still found myself making a lot of mistakes, and I think it was due to this being a compact keyboard with the K4. So that's again why I picked up the C2, and it does everything that I'm going to need it to do. And of course, with KeyChron's keyboards, the num lock only works with Windows PC instead of Mac OS. So that's the only downside I can see with this keyboard. And like I said, I'm so anxious to try it out because I like that clickiness of the blue switches. And of course, you hear that clicky noise before you get that bump. So very little pressure. And of course, I like that sound. I'm interested to see how it's going to sound whenever I switch out the keys, or I mean the switches here. And I am going to lube my switches. And this is something that I'm actually really a newbie when it comes to mechanical keyboard scene. So I'm trying to educate myself and try new things. So I'm going to switch these keys out, lube them, and I'll do a sound comparison between the blue switches and the Sherberts, and I'll even do a video going through the process of switching that out. So guys, I am also going to be giving away my K1 V3 and my K4 V1 because I no longer need them. I have this, and I think this is going to work for me just fine. And I tried to give it away before, but we didn't reach the goal that I set. So I think I'm going to make it a little bit easier this time. And all you have to do to enter to win those two keyboards is follow me on Twitter and subscribe to the channel. And that's it. You'll be entered to win those keyboards. And of course, I will look to give those away in March. March 1st is when I'm going to end the drawing for those two keyboards. And of course, it has to make sense because I'm going to be shipping these out myself. If it costs more to ship the keyboard, then we're just going to move on to the next winner. And I do apologize, but I am sending this out of my own pocket. So guys, if you found any value in this video, please like and subscribe and hit that notification button to stay up to date whenever we're releasing new videos. This is Jason, and you just now tuned into I Speak Geek. Peace.